Okay, so I want to try to give this final kind of update in terms of the rebuild project and where we are with it. As you know, on Thursday we went down to City Council and asked City Council not to move the legislation forward, to kind of hold off on voting on the legislation, or even to vote no on the legislation until we are able to get adequate enforcement and an adequate enforcement component added to the bill. The bill passed out of council um, against our you know against our opposition, 16-1. That one vote coming from Councilman David O. And David O did something, in my opinion, was extremely courageous. Um, so the bills were lumped all into one bucket. Put all the bills together, and they were going to vote on all the bills at one swoop. So lump them all together, everybody vote yea or nay, and all the bills passed. And what David O did was he objected to bill number 170206, which is the rebuild bill, being in that lump group. So everybody had to vote on that bill individually. And because David O wanted to object to that one particular bill. And I love the fact that he did that, because I got to see, what kind of a man he was and whether or not he was a different kind of Democrat. And David O went against the tide and went against everybody on city council, went against 16 of his colleagues, and voted the interests of the community leaders. And I'm not saying that the other council people don't have the interests of the community leaders at heart, because I know they do. But David O has a different regard and respect for the community leaders that spoke to him. Like I said, it's 23 of us now and growing. And I know Curtis Jones has a high, regard for us as this newly formed progressive leadership in the city, and our collaboration, because he has his top person, Al Spivey, working with us almost day to day. And I commend Councilman Jones for letting Al Spivey, kind of hold our hand and walk with us throughout this entire process. But David O, I just want to, and I know they're going to, it's a consequence to David O doing what he did, but, hopefully in 2019 we'll consider what he did and look out for David O. But what David O did was, he stood up against everybody and said, no, if the community, first off, I don't agree with the bill passing without proper enforcement mechanism. But if these community leaders are saying, this shouldn't go down, and we talking about citywide community leadership like Mel Wells and Albert Littlepages and Movita and Roz and Tracy and Rochelle and Greg Brinkley, and I'm talking about community leaders throughout the entire city, south, north, south, east, and west, all come together saying, no, we want greater enforcement in this bill. And I know that what they're saying, their argument is that there is enforcement in the bill. We do have an enforcement component, but that component is not enforcement that city council can take, right? That enforcement is for the project users, or developers. Project users is another word the state uses for developer. Project users can cancel a contract that is non-compliant, meaning if the unions don't do what they say they're going to do, or the contractors don't do what they say they're going to do, the project users can cancel that contract. But the project users aren't elected by us, right? So they don't have any real accountability to us. And then why would a project user 50% through the contract, or 75% through the contract, or even 25% through the contract, cancel a contract that the unions, so the unions don't have enough black people on the job? A project user is going to say, no, I'm canceling your contract because you don't have enough black people on this job. I am going to incur greater costs because I'm canceling the contract. I got to find a new contractor. I am going to miss my time, so I'm going to be out of budget and out of time, because you don't have enough black people. That rarely ever happens, and I don't see them doing that. So that's why we don't have a lot of confidence in project users enforcing black and brown participation, because it's not in their best interest to stop a project, because they're going to have cost overruns, and the project's going to be delayed if they cancel it because they don't have enough black people. What they're going to say is, you don't have enough black people on there, and we need you to get more black people and black and brown people on this project. And the council will say, well, we don't have enough time to find them. And they're going to say, okay, go ahead. But what we do have confidence in is city council having the power to say, you know what, I'm stopping your check, project user. You don't get enough black people on that project, you don't get check number 2, check number 4, check number 6. That's what we do have high levels of confidence in. And what we're asking city council to do is to add enforcement, not enforcement for the project users, enforcement by city council. City council at this point have no real power to enforce project users and the unions to do what they agreed upon. And monitoring, which is, city council added a lot of extra monitoring components, meaning the ability to see what the contractors and project users on. They added some extra visibility and transparency into these projects so they could see into them. But being able to see into them and being able to enforce them are two totally different animals. And what we are asking for is City Council to grant yourself on behalf of us more power to enforce. Now, maybe you won't even have to use that power, but why would you not want that power? Why would you want that not a part of your toolkit? So, in short, we plan on working with David O. In 2 weeks, we're going to meet with David O. and hopefully some other council persons. And I'm quite confident we're going to be talking to Curtis Jones, because Curtis Jones is totally engaged and involved in everything that we're trying to do, and Maria Quinona Sanchez, and have a lot. I talked to Kenyatta at the hearings, and Kenyatta is he's totally on the same page with adding levels of enforcement. And I'm quite confident that we're going to work with some other council people like Derek Green and like Cindy Bass in terms of adding that component. Let me just share with you what adding that component also does. David O. had an amendment that was going to go into rebuild, but didn't have a lot of confidence that he would have a lot of support. But what he also did was add a bill that's sitting in committee right now. That bill, which we're going to try to help make it even more progressive and a little stronger, that bill would affect any EOP, Equal Opportunity Plan. So there are a lot of projects that have equal opportunity plans that this bill that David O. has would also affect. Now, take Rebuild. It's a $500 million project. But there are in 2015, there were 750 projects that had EOPs. That if this bill, David O.'s legislation, was enacted in 2015, would affect 750 projects. So take Rebuild, multiply Rebuild by 15, and that's the kind of economic and capital effect that this bill could have. So if Rebuild is supposed to be the model, if Rebuild is supposed to be the example, you have an opportunity right now to make Rebuild touch 15 times as many projects as it does now by passing David O.'s legislation that would affect any EOP. Any project with an equal opportunity plan, David O.'s enforcement bill would give City Council the ability to say, stop the checks on those things. And that's historic, right? Why would you not want to do something bold and aggressive and progressive like that? I'm pretty confident that, like I said, I talked to Janie Blackwell, I talked to Kenyatta, and they're in favor of giving City Council more tools in their tool chest to make sure that people do what they say they're going to do on paper. Now, granted, again, City Council did a good job of crafting a beginning framework to reimagine the relationships between the union and the labor force in Philadelphia to make it more equitable, to make it more inclusive. But we want them to go a step further. And we're confident that they're going to do that. That's what this summer is all about. That's the status of the Rebuild program. I hope I didn't leave anything out. Stay tuned. I'm not really going to give you any more updates on Rebuild because we got some other fights that we got to fight. But look out for us in the summertime or in the fall to revisit this issue and do some hard work over the winter. I'm a different kind of Democrat. Let's make some good things happen.